Well, it's been a hell of a long time since my last video, and I guess there's been a bit of drama in the PoE community in recent months. It's kind of just caught up with me after it started to snowball, but I felt like now is the time to share my piece, to say what I want to say. I'm a frustrated gamer, almost a former gamer. I wouldn't quite say I'm a... Look, I still have the game installed on my PC. I've loaded it up. I've got my character here in my hideout. But for me, PoE is almost a dead game. I'm only interested in playing it because I haven't bothered to find a new game. Please excuse my squeaky chair and tea slurping. And in a sec, I'll just check the audio because I am live streaming this. And look, I'm a softcore player. I'm not a good player anymore. Let me check the audio of my own stream here. Give me 2 seconds. Please excuse my squeaky chair. Yeah, it sounds okay. Good. So, at my peak, I was probably in the top 10% of players, you know, back when I think T14 maps were the highest tier. I remember playing them with a character in the high 70s, I think. And I remember getting enough currency to buy a mirror during a league in softcore, crafting a lot of good items with essences and so on. And that was when I had a lot of time to put into the game, you know, many hours per day, probably 8 hours or more. And since then, the game has become more complicated, more arduous, more grindy. It was already a grindy game. And ironically, after they changed it to the 10-act system, which should have made it feel less grindy, it actually, just because of all the end game, it's more league content than end game that just kept piling up. It got grindier and grindier. They added far too many maps. Maps were meant to be something that became less important. They just became more and more dominant. You were forced to run more and more of them, and it became a chore. And just looking at my atlas, and I'm not in league, but basically the current league, so it's September 2021, I think it's, forget the name, I blacked it out on the graphic. Expedition. This is the first league in years that I have not played, and everyone's blaming the new update. For me, it's not that. It's just that I got so sick of not progressing in the game. I just had it at this point. I just said, I'm not making another character where I get it to, you know, the mid 80s level and then the league's over and I have to start again. You know, I'm not grinding through those maps again. It's just so boring. It's unbelievably boring now. I know that PoE is copying a bit of heat, and I think Chris Wilson's a great guy, just from what I can see online of, you know, how he addresses people in the community and cares about players. And this isn't against him or any individual, but as a team, I suppose, there are some truths that need to be heard, and I'm glad finally some of the things that have been on my mind for months, if not, well, definitely more than a year, but if not 2 or 3 years, people are talking about. Flasks. What was the point of the flask? All you were doing was, you know, it was so horrible. What do they call it? Pianoing flasks and getting RSI in the back of the hand. But the game was, you kind of had to do it because the monsters, you know, you would just get one shot. That was horrible. Maps were horrible. because of changes to the mapping system in a certain league, I forget exactly what the details were, suddenly it became hard to run multiplayer. And one of my great loves in the game was to just open up a public party and get everyone in there running maps. I think it was something to do with people didn't want to unlock certain maps, and so they didn't want to kill the boss, and people would leave the maps early, and some people wanted the maps. Yeah, anyway, we may have moved past that, but I'm not up to speed with the game anymore. Within each map, not only are there too many maps, there's too much content within each map. You can have 5 things come up that slow you down. You know, you might find a breach, you might find an abyss, you might find the blight mission. And then, you know, there can be other things. The abyss might open up to the abyssal depths, and it just goes on. And then there's a Zana, and I don't know what else. It just, and you can, you know, we haven't even talked about Delve, and you can't do. It was already a grindy game playing 8 hours a day without any of that stuff in there. Used to be you just had, say if you go back to pre-breach, whenever that was, a couple of years ago, maps were okay. You could have fun in maps. You'd get the odd rogue exile essences. You know, there wasn't really too much to slow you down. The most annoying thing would probably be having to do the trials, and probably that marks where things started to go downhill, was putting lab in the game. And I hated lab from day one, still hate it. It's unnecessary. It doesn't, the trials don't prove anything. It's just annoying content. I like the ascendancy system. I think that's good. But you know, getting one of my, as I said, I played several leagues and not gotten to end game. It must have been about 4 leagues ago I got a character to level 90 and I never found a burning rage. In fact, I haven't found a burning rage trial in 3 or 4 leagues playing solo self-found. It's just ridiculous. And that's, you know, chaining T1 maps and running Zana missions to try and get the, you know, the trial mission from Zana, and using prophecies, and it just you end up just not playing the game. So it's frustrating. And I played standard. I went back to standard this league and just had a bit of a tidy up in standard and got some characters in order and so on. But I'd like to be able to enjoy leagues. They're running they were going to run, I think, a hard mode, and I really like the sound of that, because the other thing was items became irrelevant. I was in the top 10% of players. I'm now in probably the bottom 10%. I don't understand. There's too many ways of crafting. You know, delve crafting, beast crafting, essence crafting, oil crafting, harvest crafting, and how can one person, a casual player, or even a slightly more committed than casual player, be expected to remember all of that? And they change, you know, like the way these things craft every so often as well, and you have to keep up with that, and you have to keep up with what rolls are possible on different tiered items, and it's just too much. Crafting up to the complexity of essence crafting was a lot of fun. Okay, essence crafting was easy to understand. There was a bit of a hurdle towards getting enough essences to have a good session, but you could do it with a bit of commitment. although, you know, we'll maybe talk about trade in a minute. But I hate it's, you know, the bloody beast missions in maps, and you get those monsters that just won't die, and it's just horrible gameplay. I don't know why I stuck to the game as long as I did. They need to get rid of the beast system entirely. Make a light version. Look, there are two kinds of players. There are those who kind of say everything is good. They play the game for hours. Some of them play it professionally, and that gives a distorted perception of how, you know, whether or not the player base really supports certain aspects. Because these are the professionals, are the ones who make all the content. But have two forms of the game. Have a pro version and a light version. A pro version for people who are dedicated, who want to play the game 10 hours a day, who want to spend, you know, an hour on a third-party site for every hour they spend playing the game. They want to research their build to the nth degree. They want to research crafting to the nth degree. They want to watch all the crafting guides and build guides and read all the patch notes and put all that effort in. And then have a version of the game for people who want to play 1 or 2 hours a day. They want some basic crafting. They want to have fun. They don't want to have 150 maps to grind through. They want to get to end game in a league. Not necessarily ultra end game, but they want to at least clear all the maps and have a few, you know, whatever shaper runs. I mean, I've never done Maven. I can't get up to that. I can't even get up to Shaper anymore. I can't get up to Guardians anymore. Not even close. I'd be lucky if I unlock a couple of red maps. I've lost track of how the Watchstone system works. It seems to change every fucking league. You know, and the Scarabs and the Sextants, and there's just so much crap in this game now. It's way too complicated. And the scary thing is, even when you learn it, it all changes over a couple of leagues, and you have to relearn it. And it's just a fucking mess. It's an absolute mess of a game at this point. They're going to cut down a number of maps. That's a fantastic idea. It's just the fact that a lot of these things didn't happen earlier says that they were pretty out of touch. It surprises me how they always failed to address quality of life, despite putting in a ton of effort into making new league content. And can you imagine the work that must go into making new skill gems and testing them and balancing them? But, you know, the little improvements, you know, like they recently improved the tab system where you can put in like a custom. Why did that take so long? You know, I wish they'd increase the size of some of these buttons you have to click on up there as well, and like the little down arrow that brings the sort of scrolling tab menu. I mean, just make that a bit bigger. And yeah, you know, like the control clicking things into your stash tab and assigning, like, why did that take so long? Why did it take them years to implement that? Why did the map tab take so long? I used to get kind of yelled at for suggesting a map tab with people telling me it just wasn't possible. Of course it was possible, for God's sake. You know, too many like fragments and stupid little items you don't know what to do with. Like right now I'm picking up heists and I don't have a tab that they assign to, and it's just annoying. You almost need a gem tab. There are so many gems in the game now. The uniques tab needs work. You know, only holding one unique is just not good enough. I love the sound of Hard League. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about something positive. Let's talk about the resurrection. Yes, Hard League. I have always wanted a league which in my mind I called it Poverty League. Poverty League was, you know, if you think of the storyline of the Ray class world, it would be like, you know, there was a terrible recession or something, and now there's very little currency and no items, and everything's precious. And so you can work it into the game story-wise, but the point is, you want items to matter. I mean, an RPG game where items that you find basically don't matter, it takes away a big part of the fun, of the discovery, of that feeling of the treasure hunt, that you get. I remember when I first started playing, a rare item actually meant something. We used to do this thing called dom farming, which is when Dominus was it the last level or almost the last level of the game. You would make a party, everyone would create their own instance by running up through the tower and opening a portal at Dominus, and then you'd one by one go into everyone's portal, kill Dominus, and you'd just pick up the rares and uniques. That's how good rares were. And people would link their rare, the best rare that they found, and that was a hell of a lot of fun. Now there's not even any point in picking rares up unless you're in, I don't know, even in an 84 map, even in an 86 map, compared to what people are crafting, you're probably wasting time picking them up. So having a hard league, or a poverty league as I call it, I think is fantastic. I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, kind of excited to play that. I want every item to matter. I don't care if, well, maybe I do care, but even if it makes progressing through the acts 1 to 10 really difficult, I'm content with that. I want it to be hard, but I just want, when you get to maps, I don't want to be stuck in this kind of mindless, frankly kind of boring, oh, you got to do 150 maps and you have to follow all half of them, and I hate the Baron missions and all that shit. It's just, and I don't even understand anymore how you do the totally don't understand the Maven, but not even the map guardians and the Elder. I don't know. First of all, that system was a bit bugged when it came out, and that was an issue. But now I don't even know how you get to the Elder. Again, there's so much crap in the fucking game. Uniques, just, if no one's using these things, just delete them from the game. There are too many. They're all, I don't even get excited when unique drops. I used to love putting on MF gear and just boosting the rarity and farming uniques. It was fun. Now it's like, just none of them are good. None of them are valuable, unless you maybe get a perfect roll of this or that, but it's just, there's no reward to it. And I just want a game that's fun to play, that's all. I don't, you sometimes see people talk about people coming home from work and they just want to slash the monsters, zoom. It's not about that for me. I'm happy to play slow. I like playing slow, actually. I only can play slow. I'm not a really good player. I can't play that fast, even if I want to. Plus, I like picking stuff up. You can't run a map in 60 seconds if you're picking items up. Everything drops behind you off screen. Although when the items are worthless, it doesn't matter, I suppose. I want to craft. I want to think about my build. I want to play around with different gems and different items. I want to enjoy the multiple facets of the game. I just don't want to be bogged down. I want to enter a map and you're anxious to tick that map off and move on to the next one, so you can tick off the next map and maybe have another chance at finding a trial, and then oh fuck, you get slowed down by 5 different things in a fucking map. It's just, the game is really, really broken. They need to, in League, disable the majority. If you want to keep these things in standard, okay, there's an argument for that. I would advocate getting rid of some of them, even in standard. For example, the beast system. To me, that's a no-brainer to get rid of. I don't know that you should keep harvest either. I don't know that you should keep blight. I'm speaking from a position as someone who never really mastered those systems, so I'm probably a bit sour grapesy or something. I don't know. I'm probably talking about getting rid of something I haven't tried properly. I just know that I fucking hate. The beast is the worst. Oh, and the other thing is, God, what's it called? Syndicate? There's syndicate mobs where they follow you. God, they're annoying. It's just the whole game. It's a shadow of it's way more complex, but it's a shadow of its former self. Less is more. It's turned into a science, and it's not a game anymore. It's not fun. If you want to work, do like real work in the real world and actually get paid for it. If you want to do something that's complex, difficult, and unpleasant, and tedious and time consuming, you might as well do something in the real world and get paid for it. This game should be an escape. It should be leisure. And it's become the opposite. I'm looking forward to hard mode. I will play hard mode all the time. Just to get rid of all the fucking shit from the game. But I hope they get rid of some of that league content. Especially during leagues. Like I said, if you want to leave it in standard, there's an argument for that. I concede that point. But take the beasts out of the league. Take the way you have the Xena missions that rotate, or the Xena mods, have that for league. So any one league can only have, I would say only one or two of the older league contents in it. So it can only, it might have Breach and Essence and nothing else. Or it might have Blight and Abyss and nothing. I think 2 is enough. You probably leave the Rogue Exiles in there because they're kind of fun. And I guess you have to leave Delve in there as well. Although, I don't know that you do. See, Delve's a pain in the ass. You know what? I don't think you do have to leave. All you have to do is move the Master Crafting somewhere else in the game, which should be pretty trivial, and get rid of Delve as well. That Delve is a huge chore if you want to unlock those crafts. Unlocking all the Xena mods is annoying. I wish there were a way, I don't know, you could either speed that up or just buy your way into unlock, sacrifice a couple of exalts to get the next mod unlocked. Instead of having to run fucking 14. And that's the other thing, you get stuck in low level. I should have mentioned this earlier. Your character gets to such a high level, but you're still unlocking maps, and you're no longer getting any experience because you're way over leveled. Like I said, I was running T14 maps in the high 70s character level. Okay, that was pushing it, but at character level 82, 84 it was no problem. Now you're getting to like character level 87 and you're still working on the low tier yellow maps. You're still looking for damn trials. You're still unlocking damn Xena missions. Or you have to go back because there's an Awakener or a Guardian or something in a low tier. There seem to be things that force you to go and run low tier maps again and again. And yeah, it's a joke. So Poverty League, and some of that should work its way into the main game, the hard mode. The number of items falling on the ground needs to be reduced by at least a factor of 30, in my view. I'm not exaggerating. Reduce it by a factor of 30. Maybe the rares wouldn't have to come down quite that much, but at least by a factor. Especially, you don't necessarily find too many rares like in Act 1 and Act 2. But when you get into maps, they fall in stupendously high amounts. And they're all useless. So just get rid of them. I wouldn't mind a Poverty League where rares just don't drop. And Alchemy Orbs and Chaos Orbs are, I don't know, rarer, or maybe you do something where there are no Chaos Orbs. You know, everything has to be, I don't know, I'm just brainstorming. I'd like to see a system where people who do Chaos Recipe are actually rewarded, because they're the bread and butter average players. You know, they're the sort of proletariat of the game, and they don't get rewarded, they get punished by the way the game is designed. I'd like to see them taking back the power. You know, the casual revolution, the casualist revolution is what this game needs. You know, to see Chaos Orbs become almost worthless is just a real indictment. Oh, I've got someone trying to buy something here. Which reminds me to let's talk about Trade League. Standard right now, someone's buying a pair of boots, and it's a pleasurable social interaction. If you can have a system, actually, have they already done this on P-Way Trade? I'm guilty of not using the PoE Trade item searcher, whatever you call it, trade client. So maybe it's actually okay now. But having a system where someone, let's say you have an item up and 50 people message you about it because you've got it really cheap, and you don't sell it to any of them, but you leave it up because either you're happy to waste people's time or you're price fixing. The game should detect that, right, and say, okay, this person is price fixing. We're going to put that item in like a blind mode where it's no longer being indexed. And that it shouldn't last indefinitely, but you know, if that item goes into blackout for say 48 hours, 72 hours. And I know there'll be some people who try and work their way around it, but you might, you know, it's a step in the right direction. Let's just start taking steps in the right direction. If there's a player who just never responds to trade requests, you know, put a warning up or something, right? Or I don't know, I almost feel like you should, if the problem is, and it is a really bad problem, maybe you start punishing people, like, you know, they lose a Chaos Orb if they don't respond, right? If they don't at least respond and say I'm busy, they lose a Chaos Orb. Let's say to put something into a stash tab that's priced at, you know, 10C or higher, just thinking out loud, you have to put up collateral. You know, you got to put in like 2 stacks of chaos, right? See, if you can lock down someone's Chaos Orbs by having it held as collateral, it means that there's a penalty for trading. So you're only going to trade stuff that's worth trading, right? You know, you're paying a price and you want to get that, you want to justify it, right? So you're going to respond to those requests to buy your items. And if you don't respond, not only is your collateral locked up, you should start to lose it. Just thinking up to a point, you don't want someone to, you know, go out to lunch and suddenly they've lost, you know, 50 exalteds. But all I'm saying is come up with a way of punishing players or incentivizing players, however you want to do it, to actually respond. Make Chaos Orbs valuable again. You know, get rid of some of this crafting where you can just unlock the highest crafting methods and then through sheer exalteds craft items that are so amazing you could never ever find something on the ground that's the equivalent. You know, I hate that. You know, or you could never chaos spam something like that. In my view, chaos spamming ought to be capable of rolling any item in the game. There shouldn't be anything that you cannot chaos spam into existence. And you know, maybe you have a slightly different version of a chaos orb that, you know, doesn't roll shaper mods or doesn't roll delve mod, you know, because some of that stuff can really make crafting hard. You know, chaos spamming an elder or a shaper item can be especially boots can be extremely, but you know, you don't want it to be easy either. I mean, there has to be some punishment. All I'm saying is make the chaos system relevant again. And okay, now we're going to talk about divination cards. Creating a system where you have a liability to someone who gave you $1,000 was a big mistake. There are too many, no one cares about them, no one farms them. I shouldn't say no one farms them, people do farm them all the time, but most of my sets just come from finding divination boxes or getting them through or the, you know, I think you could get them in the heists, you could get them in is it the Legion mobs or something, or you know, Legion chests, or via Blight even, I can't remember. See, there's so many ways, it's just everything's all mixed up. But most of my full stacks of cards don't come from actually sticking to that one map that drops them. So and when you do try and farm them, they, you know, they don't necessarily drop often enough to make it worthwhile, especially not for a casual player. I think Headhunter became too easy to get. You know, again, you're opening up pathways to getting really good things that kind of makes chaos spamming irrelevant. You know, like double crafted uniques. I don't know, man, just get rid of the fucking divination card. I mean, I love div cards, but they've gone too far. Wind it back, make them means, like, you know, Dapper Prodigy is not even worth anything anymore. You know, you can pick those cards up for 2 to 4 chaos to get a 6 link eye level 100. Even a 6 link isn't special. You know, I want a 6 link to be special again. I want a 6 link to be worth, you know, multiple exalteds, no matter what it is. You know, make that, I don't know, make the card rarer. I think it's a great card. I think it's one of the best cards in the game. But there are so many 6 link cards for other things as well. You know, like if you make it really like how many 6 link? I think there's a chainmail 6 link card. I know there's a Imperial Bow 6 link card. There may be a couple others. I think you can get it via a prophecy as well, although it's extremely rare. Just take, and you know, you can do increased quality rolls now as well. Here I am complaining about the grindiness of the game, but no, I think with 6 links they went too far the other way. I want a 6 link to mean something. I will say it is still pretty hard to get fusings. That's one thing they've done right. They haven't made fusings super easy to get. You know, you got to sell a lot of rares to get. Actually, that. See, if they make rares really rare, that's going to have a big impact. You know, on the value of alterations and probably fusings, jewelers and fusings as well. It'll be interesting how all that works out. Yeah, div cards. Most of them are crap. You know, the Carrion Crow and even the Gambler is shit now. And I don't know, just get rid of them. The 5-link staff one, just get rid of it. Get rid of those damned. See, the 5-link staff one, like that's one you can farm. It's just annoying when it drops when you really don't need it. I mean, should you have to customize your loot filter, or I don't know, man. Just, you know, I get a little sick of having to go and download the never sync filter every league, and it's not even a perfect filter, and I don't want to have to use fucking filter blade. You know, I used to like picking up gold rings and chancing them, or picking up level 84 gear and crafting it, and you know, the never sync filter would filter some of those items out. So now you have to go into bloody filter blade, and it's just too much. You know, at least have a couple of different item filters available from the game itself, like 2 or 3 different default ones. I guess that's contradicting the word default, but one that leaves some crafting bases on the ground would just be nice. You know, I'm sure other people have their own preferences. And for crying out loud, why does the default filter not highlight currency in a more sophisticated manner? You know, that's like a no-brainer. That's the first thing you do when you make your own filter. You know, you don't want like a Chaos Orb and a Chance Orb and an Exalted Orb to all look the same. Anyway. But Path of Exile, yeah, it's dying. Can it be resurrected? You know what I want them to do? Skip a league. And it's really hard now because of the 10-cent ownership to do things like that. But skip a league and focus. That doesn't mean you don't have league, it just means you run the league for 6 months instead of 3 months, right? And work on quality of life. Work on taking the crap out of the game. You know, fix trade. I'm not saying you have to make. I don't know that I believe having an auction house would destroy the entire game, but I respect that opinion because it's not something I know about. I respect that it could be correct to say that, but come up with some improvements to trade, such as I've suggested. And you know, I could probably sit down for an hour and brainstorm 10 different ideas that are really sensible, in addition to the ones I've already given. So, fix trade, fix maps, get the shit out of the game. The whole one shot, like, I was really gratified when I started seeing streamers play without logout. Because when I played hardcore, I didn't use logout macro or anything. I didn't even log. And I got to maps the only time I ever played hardcore. Well, admittedly, that was before Katava was in the game. I still don't think I could kill. I have killed Katava without dying, but it's kind of random. I was gratified to see all these ace players dying well before maps. They were dying in acts, you know, because they weren't logging out. But it kind of illustrates that the way you die in this game is, it's kind of, you don't die, or if you do die, it's very often very, very rapid. Although maybe that's not such a best illustration of that, but yeah, there's an issue with monster damage and having to, you know, like trying to anticipate. This is why flasks became such a thing. You'd have to flask just to protect yourself from stuff coming off screen. Like in the Baron maps, my god, like every league I would die multiple times to Baron mages or whatever they are from off screen. I've got a big sale here. 5x. For a Shaper Claw. Not sure why I'm selling this, but okay. And this was a kind of a semi-brute. Can have up to 3 crafted mods. There was only 1 rolled mod on it. You know, should you be able to craft something that just has 3 crafted mods on it? Or as many as 3 crafted mods. Hey Phoenix, what's up? What do you think about the game? I'm surprised someone stumbled into the room. I see you got a downvote from someone. I don't know if you're still here, but what are you thinking about the status of the game right now? I think it's really abysmal. But I'm excited about the hard mode. I'm excited that they're talking about culling the number of maps. I think even 100 maps is probably too many. You know, if they could bring it down maybe to like 75 or 80 might be better. I don't like I just want maps to go back to how they were. I don't like the Watchstone system. You got the Shaper in there, the Elder, the Baron shit, the Awakener, the Maven. You know, you gotta always have to look how they've changed fucking Sextants and Scarabs, and just simplify it. Just make it straightforward. You know, just give us something that's a little bit more linear. Either that, or have 2 versions of the game. One version where it's basically the same, maybe with less maps, but all the complexity is still there for those who have 8 to 10 hours a day. And another version for people like me who have 1 or 2 hours a day, and we don't want to have to read a fucking encyclopedia every time we come back to the game. PoE Lite. I'd love it if they did that. And you know, can they split the base? Yeah, I mean, they've already split the base between hardcore, softcore, and solo self-found, right? And now they're going to split it again with hard mode. So I don't... In a way, by splitting the base, they're kind of... First of all, the smaller every... and they have private leagues, right? It just becomes another league, really. And the smaller each league is, the better trade works, because it's, you know, you have less surplus of items, right? So, in my view, having a light, I don't know that you should call it light, but just, you know, give it a name that sounds good, and you just take all the shit out of the game. You know, like I said, when you have a league, only allow 1 or 2 other league contents to infiltrate it, so you reduce the clutter. I guess you might have a problem where you get like hardcore play, not hardcore, but 10-hour-a-day players playing like in the light league, and then they sort of race to the top. But you know, let's just see how it goes. That's kind of their choice. I'm sure that will happen, but that's kind of their choice, right? And it is nice when you have a few players who are farming Uber at Zeri, so you can get those. Man, everyone's buying stuff in standard. You can get those items, because I could never do Uber at Zeri. I'm not that good. I know my limits. So I am happy to have some super talented players come in and be that big fish in a small pond. You know, I have no trouble with that. Could it reach the point where it causes problems? Maybe. I haven't really thought about it. But I can't imagine it could be much worse than the current system that we have. I think I missed that comment, as it wasn't expecting anyone to come into the stream. Yeah, anyway. Kind of waffling at this point. But I hope, you know, It'd be nice if someone from GGG listened to this. I'm okay. I've been playing for several years, and I'll just finish now. I want to go back to enjoying the game. I want to. Maybe it is possible now to have group mapping sessions where no one has to worry about what maps they've done and what tiers what. I just haven't tried it for a couple of leagues because I've been in solo surf. Because Trade League is so fucking bad. I've been in solo self-found for like 3 or 4 leagues. I want to go back to Trade League. I want to rediscover the joy of mapping with other people, strangers. Just open up a public party and just. Because normally I used to have a lot of currency and I'd roll the maps really well for people, and it was just a ton of fun. And get rid of all the crap league content. Simplify crafting. Fewer maps. Go ahead with the hard mode league. I think that sounds absolutely awesome. And probably, if you're not going to get rid of all the complex stuff permanently, have a light mode of the game. I really think you need a light mode of the game where you don't have all this stuff in maps that I enumerated a minute ago. Not just league content, but the awakening and whatever, all that crap, man. The watchstones, it's just too much. I just finished with one point I didn't make. With the acts, I would maybe in light mode get rid of at least, I don't know, 2 to 6 levels. Like I'd get rid of what do they call it, like slave pens, torched courts, a couple of those really shitty levels that just take forever. Just speed that process up a little bit. If you could get rid of, I'd say 4 to 6 of those in total across all the 10 acts, I think that would be a good, especially those indoor type ones that go forever. Slave pens, torch courts, those are the worst. But like Grain Gate's kind of annoying, and the key's kind of annoying, and Act 1, Act 2 are fine. Act 2 is one of the best acts in the game. Crematorium's kind of annoying. I don't know, and the crypt is annoying, and anyway, I've waffled on and I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Sorry this was a bit waffly and boring. Just had to have my say. So see you in the next video.